Hello and welcome to another episode of Fundy Tidings. I'm your host Jay Remer, and with me today is John Kershaw. Welcome, John. John is the chairman of the board of the Horne Estate for Ministers Island, and we're here to talk about 2024 on Ministers Island and what we accomplished and what we have to look forward to. So thank you for sitting down with me, John. And so how would you like to start? Perhaps the role of the organization on Ministers Island would be a good place to begin.
Well, thank you very much, Jay, for having me back. It's very pleased to be here and basically to share with the community some of the progress that's been made on the island and things of that nature. Our organization is a community-based organization. We're independent from government. We have a board of directors that's elected by the local community. And in 2008, we signed a lease, a 25-year lease with the province to manage and restore and operate the island, and that's what we've been doing for 15 years. And I want to take the opportunity to thank the community for all their support, and to thank our staff and the board of directors who do a lot, including yourself, who's I think our longest serving board member, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, we're an independent organization, and we do it all for the love of the island.
Well, it is an amazing island. It's unique, really, and I think that more and more of the community support the island than ever before. So, as well as many tourists. So, what would you say were some of the highlights of the 2024 tourist season?
2024 was an excellent year for us, actually, and we welcomed close to 24,000 visitors. And after COVID, our numbers dropped. During COVID and after COVID, our numbers dropped quite a bit. And actually before COVID, our numbers started dropping. But we're starting to climb back to that historic high we had of just over 26,000. So we're back to 24,000 now. So we had an excellent year in terms of welcoming visitors from all over the region and internationally as well. But we also had some major events. Our concert series was very well attended. I'd like to give a shout out to Jamie Steele, our longtime partner in that regard. He does wonders for us in putting those concerts together. We also had two signature events. One was called Rail Fest. I always want to call it Lego Fest, because it involved using Lego for kids could come and build things with the Lego blocks, and the winners that built the best got to have their display added to a display that the local user group takes around the country. So that brought in a lot of families, a lot of young people, and that's the sort of thing we want to see for the future. So a shout out to Michael Mahar and John Kelly of our group that really made that happen. And also we had Earth Fest, where a lot of local community organizations get together on the island to celebrate the island itself, the planet, the environment, and we really had an excellent turnout. I think it was over 700 people on that particular day, so it was very, very successful. We also, I think I'll end by saying, we have a new executive director by the name of Nancy Lockerbie. She has joined us as of last April. She is turning out to be a wonderful person to work with, and also I think the one thing we worry about her is that she's working too hard. But she is delving right into everything about Ministers Island, and I think is becoming a little bit half dangerous in terms of moving the island forward. So I want to give a shout out to her for all the work that she's done. So we've had a very, very positive year in 2024. Nancy
is a breath of fresh air. She's takes a different approach. She's very thoughtful and gets along with certainly all the board and the staff. And one of the things that when I went over to the island this summer was the exhibition of the paintings that Van Horne did. And that I was interested in seeing the paintings because there were some paintings I hadn't seen. But there were also the challenges of mounting an exhibit in that house, given lighting and so forth, were challenging. And it was really, I thought, handled very well.
I have to give credit to again, Michael Mahar and the staff that made that happen. I'm glad you reminded me that of the art exhibit. It was paintings that he did himself, paintings that he commissioned, and also paintings that he collected over time. So it was very well attended. The reviews were very positive about that. And it's the kind of thing that we want to be able to do more of going forward. We'll talk about that perhaps in a minute or two. But having the exhibit within Covenhoven with all of the artifacts and that were already there, that was a major undertaking. And if I can say one thing about the future, we'd love to have a new welcome and exhibit center on the island. That would be, we talked about that in the past. We thought we were going to get one. We should keep that on our radar. But again, having a place where we can hold exhibits like that would be important.
As with any organization, there's always forward planning, and I understand, especially given that we do depend on the provincial government for an operating grant. They like to see a business plan, and I understand that the island has finalized a new business plan going forward. Is there a way to sort of summarize the points of that?
I think first of all, we remind viewers that last spring we had a public open house where we invited people in to talk about the future of the island. And remember, we're a community organization. We represent the community, so we're speaking on their behalf. So if we're not talking to the community, we're not doing a very good job in representing them.
Fair enough.
So we had a public open house. We met with a lot of community leaders, civic leaders, business leaders, and others to talk about what their priorities for the island was. Then we put out, I guess, what we'd call a green paper, put it up on our website over the summer and asked the public to comment and provide feedback. That all culminated in the development of what we're calling a 6-year business plan for the island. And in a nutshell, there's 6 pillars under that new business plan. Heritage and culture, so it's identifying and protecting the artifacts on the island, curating them properly, protecting the indigenous middens and other artifacts that are on the island. Basically developing policies and operational activities that protect the heritage of the island and showcase the heritage of the island. The second area is tourism itself and identifying what things we should be doing on the island, could be doing on the island to bring more visitors in. The third one is education, which is we think there's an opportunity for us to do more education-related workshops and things of that nature, maybe camps for young people, maybe and for adults as well, and also to develop resources that can be used in the classroom to showcase the history of Ministers Island and also the innovative spirit of the people that were there. The fourth is agriculture. People that know the island know that at a point in time, Sir William Van Horne had a state-of-the-art farm on the island and very innovative types of approaches. We'd like to see the reestablishment of some sort of agriculture presence. What that may be, we're looking for an opportunity, and it could be as little as planting a few crops and things of that nature to, I'd like to think, in keeping with Van Horne, we could do something a little bit more innovative, a little bit more like an experimental research and development kind of support to the local agriculture community. We have 500 acres there, much of it being arable land. So and he had a greenhouse that was state-of-the-art in his day. Why could we not have the same in our day? So it's something we want to explore with the province, the federal government, and industry. The fifth, and perhaps the underlying foundational pillar, is environmental sustainability. We treasure the island. It's a gem. It's set in an ecosystem that rivals nowhere else, and we want to protect it. We want to protect the terrestrial side, the woodlot and everything else. We want to protect the coast area, and we want to protect the marine environment around it. So we have set out some priorities in terms of identifying what needs to be done to meet all of those objectives. And the last pillar is, of course, governance and just the basic management and administration of the island. What do we need to do as an organization to make sure we can deliver on what the community is asking us to deliver on?
It's a fascinating, unique place. When I remember kayaking around there with Bruce Smith years ago, and he brought to my attention the fact that it was, in fact, part of an archipelago, which there are not that many archipelagos in the world. And that's an amazing environmental just piece of information that attracts a lot of people, because they like to. It's almost as interesting as getting to the island on the ocean floor.
Exactly.
But the other challenge, of course, or the other piece that makes it unique, is that the indigenous folks were the first people that lived there, and with the return of the interest in understanding how we can move forward in a cooperative way with indigenous people has been a very interesting exercise to go through. Is there anything you'd like to touch on about that, just to kind of bring people up to speed?
No, it's really glad you raised that, because we have, certainly within the business plan, we've identified the need to work more closely with the local Indigenous community, and actually the provincial Indigenous community, to celebrate. I mean, as the Chief Acadgy once mentioned to me, you're celebrating Van Horne, who was there 400 years ago. We were there thousands of years ago. And we do have an Indigenous exhibit, but I think we've identified and we recognize the fact that we could do a lot more. We need to do a lot more to improve the narrative around the history of the Indigenous people on the island. We need to partner more effectively with the local band and with Chief Acadgy himself. And I think there's an opportunity in terms of exhibits and during Earth Fest and things of that nature, where they've been active partners with us. We need to build on that. And it's something that, at the end of the day, people want to see that taking place. Everybody wants to see that taking place. How it's done in a respectful way, recognizing different cultures and things of that nature. We need to navigate that, but I think they have an open door to that. We have an open door to that. I think you'll see a lot more partnerships with the local band going forward. At least I hope so.
I've been encouraged over the last couple of years to see that there's been to my way of thinking, there's been a clear attitudinal shift on the part of the provincial government. And I think it's a healthy shift, and I'm hoping it will continue. There's still a ways to go to understand how to set up a system that actually includes everybody equally, but I think we're moving in the right direction.
Exactly, I agree with that 100%.
What do visitors have to look forward to next year on the island? Because I know one of the goals that the staff and the board have had is to try to increase the number of repeat customers and visitors, and not just to come back every year to make sure the place is still there, but to experience different opportunities to learn about different parts of the island. And so, what is 2025 got in store for us?
Well, that's an excellent question, and of course we're working on that even as we speak. But I think what your viewers and our members can look forward to is the things that they have come to associate with the island. We'll be building on that. So the concert series will be back. Thank you, Jamie Steele, for agreeing to work with us again on that. Rail Fest is coming back as in a bigger way. So the Lego group is going to come back and work with us again. Earth Fest is going to come back, and again, it'll be held in the fall instead of the spring. So again, we're hoping to make that a bigger event. I think, and what your viewers may find different, hopefully will find different, is that we are really looking at building on that experiential, hands-on kind of activity on the island. So to your point, even back in 2018, we were beginning to see our visitation numbers start to drop. That was before COVID. And why was that? Well, people would come to the island, they'd see it, and they'd wonder why they needed to come back, other than local people that knew they could come back and wander around the island. But people from afar would come and see it once and wonder why they would need to come back. So we want to have opportunities on the island, activities on the island, where people on an ongoing basis get to come over and have a different experience, a different hands-on experience, something that they can really walk away from and say, I really enjoyed that activity. Yes, the historic buildings are wonderful, but we want to change the island, or make sure the island doesn't become just a time capsule. It's a living museum that people can go over and really have a good time at. And in that vein, I should share with the viewers that we're hoping that the Fredericton Pipe and Drum Band will be coming down to put on a concert. Now they are well known within New Brunswick. They are well known internationally, actually, and they're going to Scotland in 2025 to compete in the World Championships. So we have been talking about them. Well, why don't you come down to Minister's Island? You'll have a chance to practice and showcase what you're going to be doing over in Scotland, and we may be able to help you provide a little bit of support for you to go over and to represent New Brunswick. So that will be a really a fun event as well. So there's, and the last thing I'll mention is we're working with the New Brunswick Museum to, the Van Horne art exhibit was excellent. But there's other exhibits that we hope to be able to work with the museum on. And one of those is, one of the themes would be, again, of an Indigenous theme. And hopefully we'll be working with, again, the local band and tourism, culture, and heritage, as well as others, to put on a real excellent display that showcases the history of the island through the Indigenous lens.
Well, it's interesting that you say about a partnership with the New Brunswick Museum, because they're going through a transition themselves with a new building and so forth. And typically, most museums only have on public display less than half, sometimes 10% of their collections. And to have another place, especially on the scale of the house on Minister's Island, is extraordinary. And so to be able to I don't use the word take advantage of, but seize the opportunity to invite the New Brunswick Museum curatorial staff to say, you know, like, this could be a really cool exhibit of this, and we'll never get around to it for 20 years. And I think those kinds of exhibits, there's a lot of potential in the partnerships that we have established and in ones that we are continuing to establish. So I think that that's a great way to try and get people to come back year after year.
That's exactly the point. They have a lot of exhibits in storage. And what a great place to, they could have, well, we just invited 24,000 people to the island. We're aiming through our plan to reach the 35,000 mark. What a great place to showcase the exhibits that might not normally get showcased. So that's, you're bang on with that observation. So that's why we're working with them.
So a lot of people have noticed a lot of construction going on at the island, which is wonderful. There are a couple of major projects going on, and so would you like to talk about those a little bit? Absolutely.
I think anybody that went over to the island before it closed, and if you happen to be walking the trails now, they'll notice there are a lot of workers over on the island, and we've had a number of priorities, infrastructure priorities, for a number of years. One of them was a new roof for Covenhoven. The roof was leaking, and it was threatening the interior of the building, and it was threatening the artifacts inside the building. So something needed to be done, and it's been one of our priorities for a number of years. And in partnership with the Department of Tourism, Heritage and Culture, who has provided the funding, hopefully in the spring people will be able to go back to the island and see the fruits of the labors and the investments that were made, because all I can say at this point is that yes, work is being done, and I think people are going to be very, very pleased to see what has been done. The other priority that we've wanted to take place is to put heat, some sort of heat system within Covenhoven itself, again to protect the building itself during the winter, but also the artifacts inside. Many artifacts we have to remove every winter, which is a labor intensive, and store them somewhere. Well, we wanted to put some sort of a system in that would provide heat, and that work is now coming to fruition as well. So that does two things. It'll protect the building, protect the artifacts, but it will also allow perhaps us to open earlier and to close later. So on the shoulder seasons, when you have a building that's warm inside, you can invite people in for longer periods of time. Mm-hmm. The third priority that I'll mention, and we were very fortunate, anybody that was over to the island this year noticed that the minister's house, built in 1790 by Reverend Samuel Adams of the Anglican Church, was wrapped in a bright orange tarp. Well, that bright orange tarp was, some people consider that a bit of an eyesore, but it was actually a clarion call to one visitor who said that should not be, and ended up coming to the table, coming to us and donating a very sizable amount of money to say, we need to restore this building and save it for future generations. That donation allowed us to go to the province, again to Tourism, Heritage and Culture, and say, we have this donation on the table. It's subject to us finding the rest of the money. And God bless them, they came forward with the rest of the money to restore Minister's House. So there's been some initial design work done, and probably in the new year, the work on Minister's House. And then will likely be, when that's all said and done, that will probably be a bit of a living museum itself to celebrate the Loyalist era and the time of Reverend Andrews. So three major infrastructure projects that were our top three priorities. Work is underway, and people, when they come back in the spring, will see the fruits of all of that. So
that's exciting.
It is very exciting.
So I'd also want to find out from you, what are the biggest challenges that the island faces as far as being maintained as a tourism attraction?
Well, as I mentioned in our last interview, the biggest challenge we have is, if we're going to realize the potential of the island as envisioned in the business plan, and as the community would like to see, it all comes down to money, right? It always comes down to funding. And back in when our organization was first founded, way back in the early 2000s, the consultants document that called for us to be established called on the province to provide us with $1 million a year to operate. $1 million. They gave us $30,000 at that time, far less than what was called for by the consultants. And since then, that number has climbed to $100,000. So, but in this day and age, with inflation and the cost of living and other things, that is coming nowhere near what is needed to operate a 500-acre living museum, and it certainly falls far short of the investment required if we're going to see this island sustained into the future and to reach its full potential, to be quite honest with you. So we have called on the previous government and now the new government to come back to the table with us and talk about how do we ensure that our organization has sustainable funding going forward. By way of comparison, I mentioned before that King's Landing gets $2.8 million a year to operate. They have roughly the same number of visitors as us. So I remind you that they get 2.8 million, we get 100,000. And we have the same number of visitors comparatively. So that's not fair. We can't, as an organization, we are not sustainable with that kind of money. And despite all the great things and the vision we have and the capital projects that are happening, the fly in the wine is the fact that we may not be able to operate beyond this year unless the new government comes to the table. And it would be a bit of a shame. We do represent the local community, and the original lease envisioned the province and the community working together to protect the island and to showcase it to the world. And it would be a shame if, for the lack of what I don't believe a huge amount of money, we would see the community carved out of that decision-making process. And I'm hopeful the new government will see that we are a value-added proposition for them. We have a tremendous number of volunteers that work both on the board and on the island itself. So what we offer them is a very cost-effective and efficient model of governance. And we're just calling on them to invest in a sustainable way. We're not asking for $2.8 million either. I want to make that clear. We just want enough money that we can hire the people we need to hire, invest in the things that we need to invest in to make the plan become real, and we're hopeful that they'll see the wisdom of that going forward. But we have to give them time. That's a new government.
We do. And I think thanks to your leadership and the strong board that we are operating with now, there's a very good chance that success is around the corner.
We hope so.
And I thank you so much for coming on and giving us a sort of an overview of what's going on there. And I hope people will take the time to renew their memberships, buy new memberships, but more importantly, visit the island often.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Thank you, John.
Jay.
And thank you for watching this afternoon, and I look forward to seeing you again on another episode of Fundy Tidings.